back to my humble channel. So today we are going to be talking about skincare. The reason why I want to, well, we're pretty much going to be doing the basics to skincare routine. I will be talking about a morning skincare and then a nighttime routine, because you definitely need to do your skincare in the morning, and you also need to do it at nighttime. The reason why is you're gonna want to do it first thing in the morning, or in the afternoon or whatever. But you want, whenever, the whole point of a skincare routine before a makeup application is you want to start off with a clean canvas. So whenever you put on makeup, you're not going to want to do it with really a dirty face. You're going to have a lot of impurities on your face. You're also going to have sebum on your face. And your face is just going to feel dirty. Just like when you start drawing or painting on a paper, you don't want to start drawing and painting on a paper that's already dirty. You want to do it on a nice clean canvas. So it's the same thing with your face. So I'm going to be talking about your morning skincare routine, and then also your nighttime recommendations as well. And the reason why you want to do a nighttime one is because throughout the day you're still creating sebum and all that stuff and impurities, so you want to wash those away and go to bed with something. You want to go to bed with a nice clean face and also nice and moisturized. The reason why I am doing this is because I get asked frequently on my personal Facebook page from a lot of friends. They message me asking either, a lot of them are about makeup tips on what they could do to improve their skills, or just to actually establish some sort of makeup routine, because a lot of them do their makeup like they did in high school. And there's completely nothing wrong with that. A lot of people do a routine, but the first thing I ask them is, do you have a skincare routine established, and also what is your skin type? So a lot of the times I ask them, what is your skin type? They don't know, or they don't know. And that's perfectly fine, because I mean, for those that don't really, for those that don't really wear makeup, it's not like they don't pay attention to those things, so it doesn't really matter to them until like when they want to actually start getting into actual makeup. Then that's when you kind of need to know these things. So today I'm going to be talking about the basics of skincare. You can get this at any drugstore, and if you want, you can always go luxury. I mean, just because you're starting off, you don't have to go to a drugstore. You can go with high-end skincare as well. So throughout this video, I am going to be inserting clips for oily, dry, and combination skin. I myself have oily skin. I do not have combination skin. I do not have dry skin. So with that being said, the main focus will be oily skin, but I did add dry and combination skin. Adding in the combination and dry skin for those of you that do have it or think that you do have it. Again, I will be going over what skin type you might have, and these are just going to be stuff from the drugstore and also high-end, so you can pick and choose how you want. Again, I have oily skin, so I chose what I thought would be best and kind of went by reviews and other people that have dry to combination skin. So if you have tried these and they did not work for you, then go on to the next item that I'll have on the screen. So just because they work for me doesn't always mean it's going to work for you. A lot of the times with skincare, makeup, anything, there's a lot of trial and error. I have gone through a lot of trial and error. Things that people said, oh, they have oily skin and it works for them. It didn't work for me. So in that case, if these items, if the, one of the items don't work for you, then go on to the next one. Go on to the next one. Keep going. Don't stop until you find something that works for you. And if you can't find something, then you might have to go high end. That's what I had to do. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into what your skin type is. So you pretty much need to get to know your skin. If you can't really figure out what kind of combination skin that you do have, then start paying attention to it. So with oily skin, typically you're always oily. Like, doesn't matter whether you use makeup or not, you're usually oily. And you could be sitting down watching TV and you could feel the sebum just like coming from your pores. You can just be sitting there with, like, you just washed your face and you kind of start to feel a little bit oily. You just look shiny throughout the day, especially in this area. And this area, you'll look really shiny, or sometimes your cheeks. So with oily skin, for me, I look oily all over. My eyelids are oily. My whole face is oily. So more or less, it's really hard to find things. But typically, if you have oily skin, then you're gonna be oily all year long. So I mean spring, summer, fall, and winter. Now when it comes to winter time, I'm oily, like on a scale of 1 to 10, as 10 being extremely oily and 1 being dry. In the winter, I'm about an 8.5. So it reduces a little bit of oil. I'm still oily, but not as bad as it would be all the other seasons. So I'm always oily. If that is you, you're constantly oily, no matter what season it is, you're just always oily, then you could have oily skin. Okay, so now moving on to combination skin. Usually people with combination skin, they are oily in the T-zone, so the forehead, down the nose, sometimes right here on the cubic belt, and sometimes the chin. And they're dry in these areas. Or if other people have combination skin, you could be oily in your forehead, only along your nose, and it could be dry in this whole region area. You could be really dry on your chin, but oily as hell on your forehead and down your nose. That I would say combination skin. Then there's vice versa. Either you are extremely dry in these areas, but you're oily on your cheeks. I personally have never heard of anybody having that kind of combination skin, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, and that could be you. So if you have, and this is all year long, all the seasons, if you're constantly like this and you're having those kind of troubles. So, or you can be dry along your nose, but really oily on top. Either way, that's a combination of skin. So if you have those, then you probably have combination skin. Now we're gonna get on to dry skin. Usually people with dry skin, they're dry all the time. Like their face is thirsty and they want water, and they're not getting enough water, even though they're trying to get enough water. They're really flaky, they're very dry, and that could be all year long. Even in the summertime, they might produce a little bit of sebum, but not enough to where they probably still feel dry. So you can have really flaky and have patches, and your face just looks really dry and you feel really dry all the time. The more than likely you have dry skin. Now that you've known that, you pretty much get an idea of what your skin combination is, or what your skin type is, let's move on to skincare. Okay, everybody should have a skincare routine. I don't give a shit if you have flawless skin, you never break out, and you literally have a mannequin face, and you don't break out. If you do have really good skin, then you definitely need to keep it maintained. And if you probably do have a skincare routine, but you're missing some of the basic things that I mentioned, then you can always take this in as well. And if you don't have a skincare routine, you're gonna learn today, okay? Okay, so the first thing you are going to need to establish your skincare is, the first thing you're gonna need is facial wash. So I'm gonna start with the oily skin, and then I'll go from there. When it comes to oily skin, you want to look for, I would say in the drugstore, there's a pretty good variety for people with oily skin. A lot of the times they will say on the bottle, oil free for oily skin, oil control. If you do have oily skin and you did try some of those that I showed you, and they dry you out way too much, then move on to something else. And if you are using that and it's not working very good as one of the options that are on there, then move on to the next one. There's a lot of trial and error with everything. As far as the high-end section, Biege does a really good job for oily skin, and they have really good products. Okay, now I'm gonna get into the dry skin for a drugstore facial wash. To be completely honest, it was pretty hard to find a facial wash for dry skin that was not gonna dry you out or anything. That was pretty hard. So these ones that I'm going to show you, if they don't work for you, or you do have something that does work, then you can totally ignore it. Or you did try all the drugstore ones and they're not working, then go ahead and switch to the high end. And again, for the high end one as well, I don't have dry skin, so I have not tried these. And say you do have dry skin and you did use some of the face washes that are marketed towards oily skin, the ones that I showed before, and they worked for you, then that's great. Just keep doing what you're doing. These are just suggestions that could help you kind of in the right track. Okay, moving on to combination skin for that is at the drugstore, which is facial wash. This, since you have combination skin, you can use oily free or oil controlling face wash, and then you can also use one for dry skin. You can use two, or you can actually find one. The ones that I gave that were an option, that they had combination skin ones, some, but again, that's pretty tricky. But because you have combination skin, sometimes you have to get two products, one for oily and one for dry, because you have both of those problems. So you can pick and choose from the options that I choose you, or just give you a good step in the right direction of where you would want to go. Okay, so the second step, or the second product you will need, is a toner. Now, usually people with oily to acne prone skin, they typically use toners, but people, of course, with dry skin, they can always use toners as well. Just because you have dry skin, that doesn't mean that you won't have acne prone problems or stuff like that. So what is a toner? Okay, so what toners do, they shrink your pores, they give you a pH balance, and then also they prevent, they give you like a layer, and they prevent chlorine and minerals in tap water. Moisturizes, it refreshes your skin, and it also prevents ingrown facial hair, I believe. Now, you can use any type of toner. You could use rose water, which is common. Witch hazel is one of the most common for oily skin. And you can use tea tree. You can use like lavender water. There's so many different ones that you can use. And to be honest, you can be any skin type and use these. You don't have to, just because you have a specific skin type doesn't mean you have to use a specific one. For instance, I could use any kind and I'll be fine, because what it's going to do, it's going to help. It's going to tone your face. So after you wash your face, you're going to want to use a toner. And when you use the toner, you can use a cotton ball or a cotton pad, and you're just going to dab it on your face, and that's pretty much it. And again, you can get this at any drugstore, and you can also get them high-end as well. So now we're going to be moving on to eye moisturizers or eye creams. For those of you that are, for those of you that are mature, that's probably really important for you to use. Between 60 and 80, it's always really good to use an eye cream. Even if you're 40, you should always use an eye cream. Even if you're 20, you should use an eye cream. I think even in your teenage years, I think it's always good to use an eye cream, so that you can prevent fine lines and wrinkles later on in life, and also bags, because after you hit your after you're done with your puberty, you actually begin to age. We all age. I'm pretty young, and I'm starting to age. It just happens. So you always want to try and prevent fine lines and wrinkles and bags. So when you use eye creams, they really do help with a lot of that. And if you don't have those problems and you are pretty young, then even if you're older, if you don't really have those problems, it's always good to keep that area moisturized, always. When it comes to eye creams, it doesn't really matter on the skin type that you have, but I do recommend that if you wear really heavy eye cream before you put on makeup or any kind of makeup application, it might crease on you because it's really heavy. So I suggest if you're going to use a lighter one during the day or in the morning, and then use a heavier one at nighttime. Okay, so the next one is going to be face moisturizers. Now this is probably one of the most important ones that you really need to have in your skincare. Even with makeup application, if you want to start out, you need to use a moisturizer. I don't care if you have oily skin. I see this a lot, where oily skin girls, they say, I don't use a moisturizer because one, it makes me oily, and two, they just don't use it, and you wonder why you're extra oily. I was like that too. I swore up and down that I didn't need to use a face moisturizer because I had oily skin, but there are face moisturizers for oily skin, and they work extremely well, and they do help with you producing so much oil. So for those of you that think that you don't need it and you have oily skin, you're wrong. You do need it. I don't care what you say, you do need it, and you do need to use it. Now, if you did use a moisturizer and you said you still felt oily, one, it could be that you used a moisturizer that was not meant for your skin type. You could have used one for dry skin, or you could have probably used lotion and thought you could use it as a moisturizer. I say that because there are girls that do that because they don't know the difference. So a facial moisturizer is for your face, a lotion is typically for your body. And if you had oily skin and you put lotion on your face that was meant for your body, of course you're going to be oily. So those are the two mistakes that you do not want to do. But say if you did get a moisturizer that said it was for oily skin and it didn't work for you, I'm sorry to tell you, but there is trial and error. So that means it didn't work for you, it didn't work for you. Just because things are marketed saying that they're for oily skin doesn't mean that they're always for oily skin. You will find that in drugstore items and also in high-end a lot. So that's why I say there's a lot of trial and error. But regardless, you still need to moisturize. Now in the picture that you saw for the moisturizers for oily skin, I do have two Neutrogena products. I tried to do different brands when it comes to the options that I give you guys. But the Neutrogena Hydra Boost Gel Moisturizer, that one I heard is really good. And me personally, I use the Neutrogena oil-free one that you saw in the picture as well. That one, I love that shit. I mean, it works really good. It works just as good as the MAC oil-free lotion. I use that moisturizer as a face primer on its own. When I know I'm not going to wear makeup for a long period of time, I'll just use that instead of using a primer. Face primer, and it works really well. It really does control oil. In the areas that you're really oily, it controls it, and in the places that you're dry, they moisturize that area. So I really highly recommend to get that one if you have oily skin. You will definitely feel and see the difference. Okay, now when it comes to dry skin, it was really easy to find face moisturizers for dry skin because it's more there's more of a market towards it as opposed to oily skin. It's a little bit harder. There's not that many options to choose from. Mainly from the ones that I showed you, those are the main ones from the drugstore. But when it comes to dry skin for even drugstore and high-end, there's a lot of options for you. Okay, so when it comes to combination skin for face moisturizers, you can use two different ones. You can use one that face moisturizer that's for oily skin, and then you can use one that's for dry skin and put them in the areas that are oily or dry. Or you can use the options that I give you. Those ones are for either dry skin I mean, no, the options that I gave you are for combination skin, some of them. But you can also take some of the moisturizers that you saw from the other slides. You can use those too for you as well. So you kind of have the, you know, you have options. So those are pretty much the basics that you need for a morning skincare routine, and you're also going to need a nighttime skincare routine. So I'm going to get into the nighttime one. You're pretty much going to follow the same basic ones that I just mentioned, except for when it comes to the face moisturizers and the eye creams, you want to go heavier. So I will be inserting pictures of face nighttime moisturizers. So when it comes to nighttime face moisturizers, I didn't do separate ones for oily, combination, or dry, because to be honest, if you have oily skin and you use a heavy face moisturizer, it's actually pretty good for you. As long as you don't feel greasy or feel disgusting when you wake up in the morning, and if you break out or if your pores become really clogged, then I suggest moving on to a different heavy face moisturizer. But I so far haven't had a problem with it, because you're going to sleep and you're not going to be coherent. I mean, you're just going to have it on your face, and what it's going to do, it's really going to hydrate your face and tell your face, you know what, she's not producing a lot of oil at this time, so we're going to keep her face nice and hydrated. I personally really like it because when I wake up in the morning, my face feels nice and hydrated, and it feels like my face just drank a glass of water. So it shouldn't be a problem. Doesn't matter whatever one you want to choose from, but make sure it's pretty heavy because you want to keep your face moisturized so that you don't create a lot of oil throughout the day. And either way, when you wake up in the morning, you're going to wash all the extra residue. You're going to wash off all the extra moisturizer on your face and also the sebum that you created overnight. So either way, you're going to wash it off. It's not really going to stay there because you're going to repeat the same steps. Anytime you apply makeup, even if it's minimal makeup, and if you even do concealer or just mascara, whatever, you should always start off with a clean canvas, and always start off with your skin routine first and then do it, because it's kind of a thing that you have to do. Even though there are no rules in makeup, but with skincare, you should always start off with a nice clean face. Even if you have flawless skin, it does not matter. People still do this, and you should do this. But that is pretty much it, guys. Again, this is the basic and the minimal thing. You can always add on stuff later on. If you guys want a more in-depth video of like an advanced skincare routine, then I can always do a video similar like this, but advanced. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye.